Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, Scott Wurzbacher, and today we're going to talk about the trailblazers that clear the path for the rest of us to step into adventure. I'm really excited about this episode because today's guest literally started a business by creating trails for people to enjoy in the forest. Jeremy Early is our guest today, and he is a Charlotte, North Carolina native. He's a craftsman, a philanthropist, an adventure guide, and quite literally a trailblazer. His company, Jeremy Early Trailworks, was started in 2006. And quoting his website, trails are an important part of any community. They connect us to each other, they connect us to the land, and they help us reconnect with ourselves. I love that so much. It's an incredibly inspiring vision, yet this business was just the catalyst that propelled Jeremy into even bigger philanthropic work that brought him to help the underserved in remote villages of Africa. This is an impassioned story of following the call to adventure, building pathways for other people to follow, and all that can unfold along the way. Jeremy, welcome to the campfire.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Man, I am so pumped to have this conversation and share this story. I wonder if we could start, how would you introduce yourself to someone that's just meeting you for the first time?
Be difficult because I don't really like to talk about myself. So it'd be probably, my name's Jeremy. I'm from Charlotte. I'm 40. Nice to meet you. I have a whole, it's kind of difficult because I am involved and have been involved in a lot of different things over the years, but largely if I was just a blank statement or a blank opportunity to somebody I don't know, introduce myself, it'd be a little modest, but I think the confidence in like, I know what I'm doing and I know what I do well, and I enjoy doing those things. But yeah, maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe it's not what you're looking for, but you want a good time? You want to go along for the ride? Let's do it, man.
I love it. You're an amazing human.
It's fun. What I like to do, and let's just go after it.
I love it. So I think a good place to start is Trailworks. I think I'd love to just talk a little bit about Trailworks. Then we can kind of go back in time from there and hear about your adventure spirit. But you've created this awesome business called Trailworks. Tell us, Jeremy Early Trailworks. Tell us about that and what it is.
It is started out for the longest time up until just recently, hand-cut natural surface hiking trails. I grew up in Boy Scouts. It was a big part of my life. It still is a very, very large part of my life. And I worked my summers in college. I went out to Philmont Scout Ranch in Cimarron, New Mexico, worked at their National High Adventure Base. And my first summer I was working in base camp. This place is huge. It's the biggest youth camp in the world. And this Boy Scouts of America alone owns 130,000 square acre or 130,000 acres in New Mexico. And then they have access to another 200 or so thousand. They've expanded now, so it's even bigger than that now. But this is in 2003, and I worked there summers of 2003, 4, and 5. And my first summer working at base camp, I got exposed to through a friend of mine who was out there. You're out there with 1,000 people on staff. They go through 28,000 kids throughout the year. I mean, throughout the summer, it's massive, and it's just this machine that just moves forward. And my friend Bonnie, she had met somebody who was working out in one of these trail jobs, taking groups out, called Roving Outdoor Conservation School. It's a 21-day program, and they do 3 weeks of backpacking, and then within that, they kind of stop for about 4 or 5 days and they do trail projects. And we were going out to their work site, and it was just right off the one of the main roads, right near the turnaround. It's like not an ideal place to want to be all summer, but yet something about it, like, man, putting my head down, hand tools, kind of hunched, not necessarily hunched over because you'll burn your back out that way, but like just getting into the whole scheme of things and cutting trail by hand and having something to look back. I mean, I look back on it, and I remember vividly that 25 feet of trail that I cut. And as far as what I cut today, if I was to ever show anybody that, they wouldn't hire me for anything. But it was something about like there's just something about this that's unique and different and tangible that I'm good at this. I understand this. And so the following summer, I worked as a Order of the Arrow trail crew foreman. I had applied for Roving Outdoor Conservation School to be an instructor, but they had enough people to do that already, or the fellow that I worked for in activity staff in base camp in 2003 said, you should really try OA Trail Crew. It's really, really cool. And it's actually it's a 14-day program, so 2 weeks. You do an entire week worth of trail building, and then you have your own trek to put together to go backpacking. We would end up going about 80 to 100 miles over 7 days with these kids. But we'd cut trail for an entire week, and we're up in this beautiful trail site, Copper Park. For those that have been to Philmont, Copper Park is at the base of Baldy in this beautiful valley. It opens up to this beautiful field, but the camp itself is up in the subalpine firs. I mean, it's gorgeous, and it runs up to the saddle. So we're cutting trail up to the saddle. And that whole summer, it was like, yeah, I like this. This is what I like to do. And throughout one of our treks, we're out backpacking, and I'm sitting with my buddy Brock, we're partners on this. We're the ones leading these 14 to 21-year-olds out in the woods all summer long. And this fella from Colorado, he says, my buddy of mine, he's a trail contractor. He's a private contractor. He builds hiking trails. And he does it out in Colorado, he says, and he does gangbusters work. Like, they're working national parks, BLM lands, all kinds of stuff. And it just got me thinking, well, if that's possible in Colorado, it's got to be possible North Carolina, wherever it ended up being.
Yeah.
He said, I'm born and raised here in Charlotte, and I'd been at school at Appalachian up in the mountains, and I was still planning on living in Boone after I graduated college, which I ended up doing. And through that, it started to add a little something in my mind, like a little nugget there. Like, okay, well, let's see what that's about. Maybe being a private contractor really is an option. And so I graduated 2005. Later, I was working construction up there, just hanging out, still living in Boone, hanging out with friends of mine. And I took an opportunity when I found this website called trailbuilders.org, and it's the National Trail Builders Association's website. They had a page for postings. So you are looking for jobs, or you are somebody, the contractor, looking for people to come work for you. So I put my name down as somebody to get a job through. Like, if there's a contractor out there, please, I'd be interested. So people started calling, opportunities started coming in, because it's probably so seldomly used that somebody's like, oh, somebody's interested. Let's just go for it. Yeah. And at 21, maybe he can physically handle the job too. So I took an opportunity. I interviewed with a few folks, and I took this opportunity with a group called Northwest Youth Corps out of Eugene, Oregon. And this would have been in between late February to early April 2006. So basically just the entire month of March. Fly out to Eugene, drive down to Maricopa County, Arizona, which is Phoenix, all of Phoenix, Arizona. We're up in northern tip of that little town of Cave Creek. And Cave Creek, come to find out, it's like where all the rich folks that moved out of Phoenix up to Scottsdale. This is the rich folks who moved out of Scottsdale up to Cave Creek. Like, they're really, really rich folks who wanted to get really far away from people.
Yeah.
And we take this opportunity. They called it the Leadership Development Course. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is what I did at Philmont. I was taking young dudes out in the woods and cutting trails and backpacking, and in a no direct way teaching them life skills, I guess. But come to find out, I was part of the leadership development course. I was not leading it. I was just another member. So it's basically how they get folks to come in and work for their company or work for their organization.
Yeah.
So we're out there in Maricopa County up in Cave Creek for 5 weeks, staying at a county park. And at the same time, I was interviewing with the state of Maine's Conservation Corps to lead just to be a hired on member. And within 2 weeks, both Northwest Youth Corps and the state of Maine's Conservation Corps said, "No, we don't normally do this, but we'd like to hire you on as a crew leader." So, all right, I'll think about it. I'm in the middle of this. We were making $50 a day. We were working 10 hours a day. And I got to thinking, man, I can do a whole lot better back at home working construction. this isn't exactly turning out how I thought it would. And so fast forward, I told them both, no, I'm not interested. I'm going to see what else is out there. And just by luck of the draw, this would have been like I said, this was early April, 2006, May of 2006. I'm up in state of Maine, anyways, with a friend of mine. We got tickets to a Red Sox Yankees game, so we drove up to Boston, and then just kept going up to Acadia to go hiking around the national park. And we're in Bar Harbor, Maine, and this fella calls me from Charlotte. Homeowner, he said, I just bought or I'm in the process of buying a bunch of property in Blowing Rock, and I found your name on this website. Would you be I see you're in Boone. Would you be all interested in cutting trails for me?
Oh man.
And so it all largely, the whole way it started was it fell into my lap. I had an opportunity and I said, well, okay, I think I can do it by myself. I can do it for myself. I'm not really down for working for somebody else right now. So yeah, all right, I'll check it out. And he had this beautiful piece of property right on the southern slopes of Grandfather Mountain. I mean, it's just gorgeous, like walking into the Grapes of Wrath or something.
That's awesome.
And the house was from the 1930s. It's everything about it was cool. The caretaker, there's a caretaker for the properties. This 90-year-old guy named Levi. He was still living there, and the guy who sold the house to my friend now, Brian, he said, "Yeah, one condition with the house: Levi comes with it." So actually, I got most mornings and afternoons, I would just walk in. I'd park near Levi's house because he was in the caretaker house down the property. I'd go in from his side of things. So we would just sit there and talk for 30 minutes. I mean, I would not get anything done. I'd
right.
So I just talked to him because it was awesome. He had such a crazy and wild perspective, being born and raised in Blowing Rock or in that area, and has lived his entire life up there. And so it just kind of, from there, that job led to, through connections from my professors at Appalachian, led to bigger projects through with the land grant, the conservation groups they were with, like High Country Conservancy, leading into folks with different land trusts all over the state. Got my foot into the door. So once I got that big trail property or big trail job at the Ginn Company's Laurelmoor property, which was very I guess the word would like that nobody really liked the Ginn Company. It was pretty controversial, but they were giving out a whole lot of opportunities to cut trails. So I took it, and from there it just built. From there it went down to Lake James. I did tons of stuff for crescent communities down at Lake James. So largely it all started with either private landowners or neighborhoods looking, because they added as part of their amenities packages. So from there I just started moving that direction. Once the 2008 into 2009, the economy tanked. Second home markets completely tanked up in the Boone area. Unless if you're building, that's different. But on the far edges of the amenities groups, that was something that they could have done without for the time being. So,
but it's such a cool concept, though. I mean, so many of us that enjoy adventure, whether it's backpacking or just going to parks and walking on trails. Like, I think a lot of us probably don't stop and think about the fact that like somebody had to create these trails.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's not machine cut. There's a lot of machine cuts, which is a far better way of doing it, far more sustainable way of doing it as far as a hands-on approach. But we were doing it all by hand. That's how I learned to do it out at Philmont, and that's what I took back here. And I had a handful of guys, kind of like my go-tos, and it was just a bunch of us buddies just hanging out in the woods, having a great time.
That's awesome. And I'm just curious, like, not to go into too much detail, but like for my own curiosity and for people listening, like, what does it take to cut a trail?
Time, determination, a little patience.
I mean, are you in there with like, what kind of tools are you using? Like, what does that look? What does cutting a trail look like?
Yeah. So at the early stages, up until about the last year and a half or so, as I've moved into more machine cut trail, being that I just turned 40, the hand cut stuff doesn't quite do it for me anymore, physically. You walk in largely. So if it's a private home neighborhood, if it's like a Laurelmoor, whatever, what they are now, Blue Ridge Mountain Club, or if it's down the Crescent Community stuff down in down Lake James, you're cutting through common open space. You only have so much room to work with to begin with, because they're there to sell lots. So you're working through a bunch of drainage areas and down like above
Yep.
the lakes and stuff. And there's usually, I know in McDowell and Burke County, where Lake James is, they have 60-foot buffer zones. So you're inside the buffer zone because they don't want anything machine cut. But they're like, well, but hand cut, that would work fine.
Yeah.
We don't mind a problem with that. It doesn't create that much of a runoff to get down to the lake. So we would go in, I'd flag it all out. I'd walk with the folks that work with the neighborhoods. Like, this is where I think it should go. It's going to be this long, roughly, let's just say 3,000 feet. I have a per foot price. And we would agree on that, and then we just rock and roll. I'd take my guys out there with the chainsaw and cut down anything that needed to. Largely, if it was anything bigger than like the size of your wrist, I would largely just go around it. We didn't take out any big trees. We just took out a bunch of small stuff. So if I had to bring a chainsaw, it was like, something had fallen down already. We were just having to clear stuff. But you cut your corridor out. You make it wide enough, about arm's length, to take everything out, and then you just go in with your matic tools and cutter matic or a pick matic, which people are like, oh, that's a pickaxe, or Pulaski is also a really common tool. We just use cutter matics because they're just more beefy and can tear out roots just as well. And we just take a section 25 feet at a time. And if there was 3 or 4 of us, we would just leapfrog each other, or I'd have 3 of those guys leapfrogging each other, and I would come in and I'd finish it all with my McLeod, my big rake tools, and make sure it's all tuned up, looking real nice and sharp. And that's largely it. There's nothing to put down when it's natural surface. There's nothing to wash away. Over time, if it has enough people on it, it'll compact largely in and of it, like by itself. It just takes probably, to do 3,000 feet at that time, I could do upwards of 400 feet a day, depending on how many guys I had or depending on the terrain. And we would just rock it out, man. It was just fun. We worked 3-4 days a week because the weather either washes you out or you're just too darn tired come Friday. And we worked hard enough. I would tell all those guys, instead of like, I'm not going to waste your time, so don't waste mine. So we're not going to be out there for 8 hours because that's what a working day is. If we can get done in 3.5 hours what I want to get done in 8, I will pay you for 8. So that was the biggest motivating tool, of like, either take a 12-pack, set up the end of the trail, like the end of that section. Like, I want to get to here. So I'd put a 12-pack right there. Like, we get to here, we're done today. I don't care what time it is.
I love that.
The first time I did that, we were done by 11.
Do you ever see the movie Cool Hand Luke?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's making me remember that. Like, he works really, really hard just to get to the end, and they're like, slow down, you're going too fast. But I love it.
The idea is to be done.
Yeah, you just want to be done, man. I think this is so cool. But like, one of the things that I love about this, like, you obviously are an adventurer, but you're somebody that likes to lead. And I think it's just like, to me, there's a metaphor in Trailworks, because you're not just out in the wild, you're actually cutting the trail. You're actually creating the trail. And so many of us, like, we go find the trails and we walk on the trails, but you're actually out there creating them. And it seems like you kind of have this desire to sort of go first. And I'm just curious, because, like, we're going to talk about other parts of your journey moving into the philanthropy and guiding adventures. But I really am curious, like, if there was any, like, it seems like a metaphor to me that you're, like, really at the forefront of creating these pathways so that other people can come with you. And I'm just curious if there was ever, like, any intentionality about that, or is that just something that, like, we can see in the rearview mirror?
Rearview mirror. That was never a thought. Really, the largest thing was, I don't necessarily want to go get a job. So what can I do to work for myself? Like, at least to see if it's possible. My parents have been unbelievably supportive in all of it, because it's not always the easiest to do, and certainly it's not always making money.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where, like, I'm not interested in that so much. The making money part, like, I know I have to make ends meet to pay my pay my rent and all that sort of stuff, and all my bills at the time, and still today. But it was largely like, I like the freedom. Like, it's a taste of freedom that once you get that, that's hard to let go. So it's been, once it kind of established itself, 2008 was a really great year. 2009 was a very tough year, but it was one of those, like, I've tasted what success is,
Yeah.
and I know what it looks like. I know what it takes to do it, and it's not that daunting of a task to, like, success for me is different than it is from somebody else. But ultimately, it was that idea of, like, you watch The Office or something, and it just seems as though, okay, it's a TV show, but there's a lot of similarities, and from what I understand from the corporate world, of not a whole lot of what you do is tangible to take home. And the idea of cutting trails by hand, like, every day you do something, that is a tangible result.
Yeah.
No matter what you've done, you have something to look back on and think, I just did that, or I was a part of the group that just did that.
Yeah.
And I can, and guys that I'm with, I can walk through a trail that I cut, and I know full well which section I did, compared to, that was a section that Matt, or that's the section that Bink, or that's the section that the Swedes did. Like, I can tell just by walking through it, because we spent so much time together. We had such a great rapport and relationship, and like, we would just go to war with each other, largely because it's so physically demanding that by the end of the day, if we're driving back from Lake James to Boone, it's an hour and a half drive up Highway 181, which is this curvy, twisty mountain road, and it puts everybody to sleep. We're just completely exhausted, and I'm sitting there, windows down, music's blasting, AC's on, I'm drinking water, whatever I can do to keep myself awake to get home. And it
Feeling
was a great way to spend my 20s, man. It
feeling
really was.
great and feeling that sense of accomplishment. But I guess I am curious. So like, yeah, it's the rearview mirror, but like looking in the rearview mirror and then knowing where like your life has been taking you in terms of leading others, like as you look back, do you sort of see that, and like do you connect with
Yeah,
that piece where like
yeah.
something in the universe put you in a place where you were like
Oh,
creating a path?
absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those, like, it gave me an opportunity, and I'm a scout leader. I'm a scoutmaster for the troop that I grew up in here in town. And one of the things I tell our guys, like, the good thing about, I feel, is scouting, and I think from the route that I've taken, running my own business since I was 23 or 22, was, I learned how to fail well. Like, I realized there's an opportunity there, and for someone in my specific circumstance, being born and raised in Charlotte in the early '80s, and it very much entrenched in this community. Like, I got a handful of opportunities to mess this up. So long as I don't, there's a few things. As long as I don't do that, I have a little bit more leeway in taking a risk.
Yeah.
So and that largely came into real focus when I got involved with the Lunch Project and going to Tanzania, seeing that firsthand and experiencing that firsthand, which I know we're going to get to. But it was that opportunity, like, building confidence. Like, I can take a risk. I'm okay if it kind of blows up in my face, because I have the understanding that I have been given certain gifts in this world, so long as I'm willing to see what they are and pursue them. And I did it, and it was successful. Not all the time, but enough to make me realize I have every ability to make my life into whatever it is that I want it to be.
Yeah, I love it. And the thing with Trailworks is, and I don't know how much you think back on that, but like you have this sense of accomplishment for what
Mhm.
you created, but when you think about all the people that got to come after and use those trails,
Mhm.
that's got to be pretty rewarding too. Um,
Absolutely.
so you said you foreshadowed to the Lunch Project, and let's go there. How did you go from this very cool nature-based business of cutting trails for land developers essentially to this next phase, which is leading these trips? Can you talk about that?
Also by luck. I was me and two friends in 2006 decided we wanted to go climb Kilimanjaro. Friend of mine had just gotten out of his duties with the Army. He had a nice little bonus in his pocket, and he was like, I want to go do something. And I've always wanted to go hike Kilimanjaro. And at the time, I'm like, all right, I'm game. Passed it along to another friend of mine. He was game with it too. So we three of us set out in early 2007. We actually spent New Year's in Dublin on our way down to Tanzania.
Nice.
and we got to Arusha or Moshi. We got into Moshi maybe on the second, and we hit the trail on the fourth. It was real quick, relatively quick turnaround. Went through a group called the Marengo Hotel. A friend that I had worked at Philmont with, he had gone. I got the name and number from him. And so we did that in 2007, and it was a wonderful experience. We had an awesome time, great time on the mountain. And I had it in me, like I always wanted to go back. It's one of those places I've always wanted to go back to. And luckily I was young enough to where that wasn't like a huge thing. Like I'm talking about when I was 24, wanting to go back. Oh, one day I want to go back. So I was back in 2012 when at St. John's Episcopal Church, which I've been a member of since I was a kid. Sitting there in youth group one night, and one of the adults says, "Hey, there's a lady here, Rebecca Wofford, who started this group called the Lunch Project, along with two other ladies, and they're going to Tanzania. This would have been June of 2012.
Okay.
We just started this organization in 2011, and we're looking to take a group to experience kind of firsthand what that was going to be in 2012. So kind of, I heard the announcement. I said, "Oh, I've always wanted to go back." Talked to my dad about it. He said, "Yeah, you've always talked about wanting to go back. Why wouldn't you do it?" So, okay, scrounged what money I had together and handed them a check. Actually, it ended up working that somebody had dropped out. So I think it was a little bit less expensive for me because somebody had dropped out and that spot opened up.
Nice.
So all I needed to do was just kind of like pay my way to go, and ended up we did the same exact safari that I did in 2012 at Lake Minyara National Park and then the Ngorongoro Crater. And we actually did it on the front end of the trip. So this was like maybe all in all, we were there for maybe in country for 9 days. So we did the safari, and I thought at the end of that, okay, this is great. I love this place. This is wonderful. It's incredibly beautiful. Scott, as you've been to this place, the crater is unbelievable.
It is. It's magical.
It's hard to talk about. It's explain and somebody, it's like talking about the Grand Canyon. Like, how do you really explain the Grand Canyon? It's one of those things. Hopefully you have the opportunity to see it. So this is that same thing. Like, hopefully you have the opportunity to see the Ngorongoro Crater. So if I got to go for the second time, absolutely. And we're there and had a great safari. And I thought, all right, that's clearly the high end of the trip. And I'm game for whatever this next phase is going to be, whatever this lunch project intends to be, and what we're going to be doing. With no real expectations, no real thoughts towards it. It wasn't like, if we do this, then that will be a great trip. If we don't do this, then it will be a poor trip. It's just along for the ride, and immediately fell in love with the place. We went to Laminyata Primary School, which is on the western edge of Arusha on Mount Meru, like the southern slopes of Mount Meru. Beautiful piece of the world, and the people there are just wonderful. But it's a Maasai community, and when you hear about desolate and poor and poverty, this is largely that. And it's a kind of a cultural thing, the way the Maasai work. A Maasai warrior or Maasai man is able to have as many wives and kids as he can afford through cattle and goats. It's a bartering system. So it's not a place where they like stop and do agriculture. They're a nomadic tribe or nomadic community. So at this point in time, we fast forward to 2012, and all the public land, I mean, all the open space is basically either taken by the government or private landowners. Mm-hmm. So they're these folks who have lived a nomadic lifestyle for a couple hundred years are forced now to largely just settle into one place. So with that, it starts to grow and grow and grow and grow. The community grows, but yet there's not really much of an economic base by any means, because they're still just bartering. So these schools are packed with kids, and yet I'm talking a 13-room school in Laminyata Primary School with 100 kids in each class, 1,000 kids at these schools. And that whole entire region is full of schools that are overcrowded with children that, because of their family commitments, are largely pulled out of school to help out at home. Either taking goats and cattle to the marketplace if you're a young boy. If you're a young girl, you're there to take care of all the younger brothers and sisters you have that can't help out. So you're largely just, life has already been predetermined for you by just being born. Like, this is the lifestyle you're going to have. So the Lunch Project, Rebecca and the two other ladies, when they went before they had this calling of sorts of the headmaster at Laminyata Primary School the year before in 2011 had come to Rebecca when she was working for the Charlotte School of Law. They were out there looking at the UN development goals at the secondary school right next door. I mean, just the incredible link that took Rebecca to Tanzania to meet Ernest Mbaga, to meet his sister Rebecca, who ran the secondary school, which was next to the primary school. The way all these things just kind of link themselves together it's bigger than me. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than me to even try to comprehend how that works. So what had ended up happening was it just took us to a beautiful community full of incredible people that were really wanting to do something for these children. Like, we need to have a reason for these kids to stay in school. What could that reason be? How about serving them lunch? That would be great. Yes, we think lunch would be the perfect way to keep kids involved in school. So what would that lunch be? How about rice and beans? And they go back to the community. This is not something that the Lunch Project, a Charlotte-based organization now that's overseen by a group called Thrive Global Project. It's not something that they do where it's like, we're sending boxes of food and this is what you all should be feeding these kids. It's what can you all afford to do? What would you all feel would be the best for us to help in what way? And that was cornmeal porridge. That's ugali is typical meal that folks out there in the Maasai communities would have, and really across that region of Tanzania. It's just a cultural preference and something that they feel like they could give to their kids if and when the Lunch Project ever had to stop being there. So we're serving meals out every day. That first trip in 2012, and helping to build desks for the schools and all kinds of stuff. We're doing all kinds of projects around, and just like hands-on working with the community, meeting folks that are leaders of the community or parents of the school kids. And it just clicked. Like, this is a great organization. This is a great thing to be doing. And because I was in my late 20s, ran my own business, no wife, no kids, no responsibilities of that regard.
Yep.
They asked me on the flight home, would you be interested in leading trips moving forward? And without a hesitation, like, absolutely.
Yeah.
So from that 2013, 2 trips in 2014, 2 in 2015, 1 in 2016 and 17 and 18, and then the pandemic hit, and I just went back again in 2022, or earlier this year, January 23, started my own guiding service, leading folks through, and it's just been wonderful to be the one person that keeps coming back to these communities year after year after year. It's been something to behold and something to be part of, and to certainly be proud of, because 2012 they seemed a little hesitant that we were there. Like, what is y'all's actual end game in this? And to come back now in 2023, where I'm welcomed as, it's good to have you back. It's good to see your face again, and to share a meal with you, and to hold hands and just walk through the classrooms and see these kids. And that's something I'm very proud of. I don't know exactly how to put that one into words either. But it's an organization, it's an opportunity that was given to me, bestowed upon me to take the charge. And like you said, I guess I think of myself as a natural leader. There's not a whole lot that scares me off. And if it does, I kind of like it. I kind of like pushing myself to where that comfort zone is. And this is definitely one of those things. This is a comfort zone to the extreme, like pushing it to the extreme, allowing myself to be vulnerable with these communities that don't know me for anybody. And they certainly don't look anything like me. And with that, I feel so grateful and fortunate to be able to go and be a part of it, even if it's just for a few days at a time.
Yeah, well, it's really incredible. Like, if, just going back to like Trailworks, I mean, you kind of got into doing what you love. Opportunity presented itself. You said yes. We're going to come back to that. But and then it turned into something bigger, and then like you built those skills, and then once again, like an opportunity came to you, and you said yes, and now like following that voice inside that just really. You were just going on a trip because you wanted to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. You thought that sounded cool, but like that experience led you to opportunity to contribute in a bigger way. So for the Lunch Project, you started going in 2012, and you went really almost, it sounds like every year up until 2018. And then you started going back. I'm curious, like for those villages, like what sort of changes and transformations have you seen through those years of going back, and through that relationship building with them?
It's interesting. The relationship is very strong. But what the impact that it's had, depends on how you choose to look at it. Having gone back in 13, where there's still a little bit of that, oh, you again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we recognize you. And in 2014, okay, Jeremy, we know who you are. We're you start to, that welcoming starts to get a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger and more encompassing. You start to see a little bit more of the culture. I'm not there blown away by they're singing songs for us and they're running around. We show up and school just grinds to a halt, and these kids just go, wild for the world is a smaller place when we show up.
Yeah.
Smaller place. It's not so daunting of a thing to think that like their dreams that they're not actually feasible. Maybe if they didn't see us, if they're not around us, just think, well, these folks have figured out a way to make this a reality, to be able to travel halfway across the world. So I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things where, when we're sitting there talking to kids, like the end product of the lunch project and Thrive Global project today, what they're doing is grades are up. More kids are testing into secondary school, and the education continues to rise. And through education, hopefully that helps to raise some of these communities and these families out of poverty as we know it. In Arusha and the rest of the developing world, the way they value monetary success is the same way we value monetary success. It's not necessarily a matter of what they have and what they don't have versus the freedom to choose what it is and how they choose to make a living, to give more opportunities that way. And just to have a better base and understanding of education is never a bad thing. It's used, and when it's used in the right ways. And I think I've looked at it thinking, okay, where is the end game in all of this? Because you kind of see there's some communities that kind of rely on it.
Yep.
At this point, they're relying on us to be able to continue that funding program. Everything is locally sourced, so it helps to build the economy, the little microeconomies that are in that area. The cornmeal porridge has a milk base, and that is brought in from the local dairy farmers in that region. And the cornmeal is ground at the little refinery there right next to La Minardi Primary School. Like, these things it's not shipped in, it's there, it's locally sourced. But after a while, you kind of thinking, all right, 1,000 kids has now turned into 1,100 kids at a school, and 800 kids has turned into 875 kids at a school. And that's wonderful. I hope that all these kids get something to eat and get a chance to learn and go on with their lives. But at some point, it's kind of a double-edged sword in a way of like, all right, with the community, where are we going with this? What is going to happen with this? So it's a long term. It's certainly a long range goal. It's a long range target to hit. Of we can look at everything on a microscopic level, but yet we need to see things from 30,000 feet. And is it moving forward? Yes. It seems to really be moving in a positive direction. Nothing in life is perfect, and neither is this organization, and neither am I. And what I hope to be instilling in these communities, if anything, but through the right desire and want to help, I think we've hit upon a nice mutual understanding and connection that we can help, and we're not here to step on toes, but we do have a larger vision in mind, and we'd like to see how we can make it happen.
Well, here's what's cool. Like, you guys, you started small, right? And even going back to Trailworks, right? That starts with cutting a trail. And then once you cut the trail, that makes the space for people to be able to come along the path. Like, once the trail getting cut is just the first step, right? Like, people being able to come along that path, like, who knows what's going to happen after that, but that's the first step. And it's the same thing with this lunch project and your involvement in that. You're starting by helping these kids to get a nutritious meal. And then the nutritious meal turns into, like you said, 800 kids becomes 875 kids. And now it's like, how do we make this sustainable? But what your point was, is that there's still a lot more to come.
Yeah,
right. And we don't know what that looks like. There's always going to be more challenges, but you cut the path.
Yeah, we can second guess all we want to, but that doesn't change what we do in moving forward. we still have to put our heads down and do the work. And that's what I loved so much about, and what I enjoy so much about it, and where it continues to take me through scouting, through coaching soccer in high schools, through my help with the youth program at St. John's Episcopal. I coached soccer in Myers Park for 8 seasons just because, oh, why not? Seems like a really cool opportunity. I'd love to do it. And it's that I just like getting involved and stuff, getting my hands dirty, and like working with other people towards a common goal. And this is just one of those beautiful common goals of everybody deserves a chance to have a meal. I would think of it as very selfish and a very American thought process of, well, why don't we just help the people that are here in the United States? Like, yeah, there's plenty of people doing that. I had people ask, like, why'd you pick that place? Well, one, it wasn't me. I didn't pick it. I'm along for the ride. I agree with what they're doing. These people need help too. And I can, and with my specific unique gifts that I have been given, I can be of help. So I choose to be of help.
Well, and the other thing is, because you and I we talked about this, we had a chance to speak before this call, and there's been a number of experiences. I mean, you just brought up some of your coaching experiences and some of these other things, and you said you just like to be involved. But one of the things we talked about early on was your desire and that feeling within you to just say yes to opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely a thread that's kind of carried through your life, whether it was like going to New Mexico to be on that Boy Scout project, and then Trailworks, and then going to Kilimanjaro, and then going and being part of the lunch project. Like, can you talk about that feeling of just that desire to say yes for you specifically?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those things where I feel like there's a real lack of confidence in a lot of people, like not necessarily belief in themselves, but the confidence to go and do it, to follow up on it. And I only say that because I've been involved with so many groups and organizations, and been around so many people in my adulthood, through all these things that I've been involved in. I've been fortunate enough, and with that confidence, largely it's filling a need to say yes. Like, there's stuff out there for all of us, so long as we're willing to keep our heads up and look for opportunities and see an opportunity in, or see a space for us in those opportunities. Like, I can only imagine most folks get asked to help out with something throughout in a year's time, in 365 days. If they're involved in something, hey, can you help out with this neighborhood gathering? Can you help out with your kids' Cub Scout blue and gold banquet? Like, there's things that are out there for all of us, and I'm sure we're asked. We just have to find the time and the desire to want to do it. And half the time, it's, as I tell the guys in our scout troop when it comes to service projects, like, serving others is serving ourselves. It has nothing to do with largely if we want to. Like, I don't care if it's fun. We can go out there and we can make it fun. We'll go out and we will make, as long as we are there together, as long as we are there working towards a common goal, we will find the fun in it. It doesn't have to be one of those incredible experiences. Like, it's what we choose to make of it. And I think that's what instills confidence. I think that's what builds confidence. Like, saying yes, having an opportunity, and seeing it through. I think that's how confidence is built.
Yeah.
And confidence is a wonderful thing.
And it comes through saying yes, right? You say yes, you build a little bit of confidence. You say yes again, you build a little bit of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were in this summer with our scout troop. We went up to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I had gone last year for the very first time, and it's the world's largest air show, the Air Venture Oshkosh, I think is what they call it, through the group called the EAA. And I want to say it's like the Experimental Aircraft of America or something like that. And it's this monstrous air show. It was the coolest thing I'd ever been to, or that I could think of when I was there last summer. Like, this is super cool. It's not the coolest thing I've been to. This is super cool. Like, this by itself is just super cool, and more people need to know about it. So I brought it back to the scout troop. They were totally in. We went this summer, and our first 2 nights there, we spent 3 nights at the air show. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday and Friday, it rained so hard in the middle of the night. Like, we woke up on in the middle of Friday morning, like 2 a.m. and it rained from 2 a.m. to 3:30, and these kids' stuff got soaked because we're in these big 8-man tents, and they all largely have crappy or complete, this tiniest little rain flies you could think of, and
Yeah.
and they they keep water in. They don't really keep water out. So all their stuff is like floating on top, like 2 inches of water. But it's the Midwest. It's like, fellas, this is what this place has been getting rains like this since the earth was created.
Right.
These root bases are 15 feet deep. What do you expect? It has to rain like this in order for these grasslands. The airport just came here. They mowed it all down. We're still in the grasslands. And so it rained so bad on Thursday, and then it rained again on Friday, but it didn't rain as bad on Friday. So I get up on Saturday morning, and I get with the guys in the troop. I say, hey fellas, let me do a little story. Like, told them about when I was in the Scouts, and we're up in West Virginia going whitewater rafting. We're sleeping in a parking lot because that's where the camp was, and it was terrible. Like, I don't remember anything about the rafting. I remember the night before and how bad it was. It didn't like take away my determination to keep going camping. It's just one of those, like, I know it can get worse than this.
That's right.
And so, like, we're sitting there talking to them, like, Friday night, like Saturday morning, like, that was a bad rainstorm, but it wasn't as bad as Thursday, and we all made it through that too. And so we're all here together. We're all still enjoying ourselves. We have a whole nother day and a half here at this wonderful air show. We can mope and we can be upset, and all our stuff is dry. It's not like the things are just soaking wet and ruined. All of our stuff is taken care of because we took care of it when the rain was happening. We did the work. We put it in. Okay, that was tough. That was trying. But once you kind of get into the middle, like, it's kind of fun. I kind of like to lean into the crappiness of a monstrous rainstorm, because I don't know when I'm going to be back in Wisconsin for a monstrous rainstorm. I will not forget those 2 nights. There's not a chance in the rest of my life, barring dementia or something, that I will forget what happened on those 2 nights in Wisconsin. I might forget about some of the parts of the air show, but I won't forget those 2. And that's one of those, like, character building experiences that builds confidence of, like, I faced it. I was there. I faced the storm head on, and it didn't beat me.
Made you stronger.
It made me stronger. Like, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, and that's it. It made you stronger. So Jeremy, as we get towards the end of our time here together, tell us a little bit about what's next for you. You've started guiding people.
Yeah, so all these experiences, especially through Scouts and my trips to Tanzania, has just given me an opportunity to hone my leadership skills, camping skills. I love hiking. I love being outside, and I love the program that is Scouting. I love what they instill. There's a handful of things on the national level and corporate type of sorts of things which I can disagree with, but ultimately the meaning of the program holds a lot of value to me. Mm-hmm. But it's not for everybody. And so I want to be able to take what we do there in Scouts, and I want to take it to the broader community, whether that be Charlotte and beyond. So I have a company. It's brand new. It's called All Points Adventures. Here's one of my stickers. This is my logo here.
Nice.
I have one shirt, so it's in the wash, so I didn't have that time to put that on. But I am going to be, my goal is to lead 2 Tanzanian trips a year.
Cool.
Kilimanjaro hike and a safari in January. That's about a 17-day trip total. That's a 6-day safari and a 7-day Kilimanjaro hike up the Machame route. And then in June, I'm putting all the final details together and pricing together for an 11-day safari where we fly in or we drive up to northern Serengeti, and we'll watch the wildebeest migration cross the Gurumeti River, hopefully get snapped up by some crocodiles while we're there. We'll go hang out on Lake Victoria for 2 days. We'll fly down to Gombe National Park, where Jane Goodall did all of her research, all of her chimpanzee research, and it's actually through my good buddy Ernest Mbaga, and this is his company in Tanzania, East Safari Organizers and Guides. We work in tandem to put these together. So we have boots on the ground in Tanzania that are there, know the area in like the back of their hand. Our safari guides, Gerald and Eki, are fantastic, And then we go through another company that's not East Safari Organizers and Guides, but just another company to take us on the Kilimanjaro hike, which we did in January of this year and had a wonderful time, just a wonderful experience doing that Machame route. 11 of us, we all got to, or 12 of us, we all got to the top, and it was wonderful. But that safari in June would be following Gombe. We'd go back to Arusha for a day or two before heading home. And it's just an incredible place. It's like really hands-on. We'll spend a little time at the schools by what Thrive Global is doing and what the Lunch Project has been doing in the past to visit those places and be a part of what the lunch program itself to experience it firsthand, and then just see beautiful places and to be accommodated for and taken care of beautifully. That's the Tanzania things. I'd like to take folks to Oshkosh for the air show because it's just an incredible experience to do that for 3 days at a time, to kind of break the week up in half and do a Sunday through Thursday for folks and do a Thursday through Sunday for the rest of the groups. And then mountain biking, rock climbing, and whitewater rafting in the New River Gorge.
Nice. Yeah.
Whether it be the New River or the Gauley, and just hit it. It's there. It's a 3.5 hour drive from Charlotte. Let's do it. It's available. It's something that those guide services, River Wild and a couple other ones that are up there, they just do a fantastic job, and it's something that folks here in town I think could really benefit from. So there's always something working up here for a trip opportunity. So
a lot of opportunity, and I love how this has all evolved. It started with you basically just showing up, being willing to say yes to different opportunities, and all of this stuff has just sort of evolved for you, and you get to follow that voice inside that's calling you to adventure. So if people want to learn more about your trips, All Points Adventures, or even Trailworks, what's the best way for them to learn more about these projects?
Through the easiest way of getting a hold of me is through my cell phone.
Cool.
And, I can always just give you that number and you can post it for me later. But I have 2 email addresses: jeremy.earlytrailworks@gmail.com or jeremy@allpointsadv.com.
Perfect.
And I'm working on the website stuff. I'm working on the social media type stuff. It's never been my thing to advertise for myself. The trail projects, once I kind of got them going, they just kind of sold themselves. So that was always, that's what anybody ever wants. As far as a business owner goes, I don't have to go looking for jobs. They usually come to find me. So this is a different turn for me. This is another thing to step into. And as you had to deal with me trying to figure out how to get onto this onto this call alone, my technology skills are a little lacking. So that's another thing for me to just say yes to and throw myself into it. Why not make it happen? If anybody's looking for something to do and to talk firsthand, I've actually got an art show coming up next Friday the 13th, October 13th, at the Charlotte Art League, and that's from 6 to 9 p.m. So if this gets out before then,
cool.
I would love to come check it out, or it's just there. It's available every weekend, starting this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sundays from 1 until 7 p.m. The Art League is open.
Perfect.
My stuff.
So Jeremy, I think that in life there are trailblazers and there are those who prefer to follow the leader. And I think at times we all play kind of both of those roles. I am curious, for people that are listening that are kind of inspired by your story of just sort of listening to your own voice that calls you to adventure, being willing to say yes. What advice do you have for the trailblazers, and what advice do you have for the followers?
For the trailblazers, don't let negativity bring you down. Don't let things just get in the way and stop your forward progress. It gives, I think, every time that a opportunity is there, there's like I said, there's a flip side to everything. You can look at it in a negative light, and you can kind of lose that confidence and lose a little bit of that steam. You just got to figure out a way around it. You just got to be creative, be willing to adapt and change without breaking your morals, without changing the things that you know that you stand firm on. In soccer, we tell them don't drop that back foot, let somebody go and take you on the other side. If you're trying to force them one way, don't let them take you another direction. You got to continue to force them that direction. It's that same mentality. How steadfast are you? Continue to keep your head up, keep looking forward, and do the work. It all comes down to doing the work. And then for those that are maybe looking for what that opportunity is for them, I have a flip phone. So a smartphone has not been something that I've had to deal with in my life, but having been to plenty of restaurants and everywhere else in and amongst the daily life of a suburbanite in South Charlotte, a lot of folks are looking down. They're looking down at their cell phone. They're engaged in something else than what's actually right in front of them. And I think what that ultimately has come to is a lack, or not a lack, but it's putting a hit on face-to-face communication. And yeah, you can send a text real quick and get a quick response, but there's just something in that wording that maybe you're not catching, that you will largely only get from either a face-to-face or a phone call. Like, get out there, talk to people, see what's interested them, see what they're interested in that might interest you. How can you all connect, and continue to find opportunities and organizations and places where you can just go and connect, whether it's at one of the 100 breweries in this town, or the greenways that are just continuing to expand and open up to connect and link places. There's organizations, there's churches that need help. There's just whatever, anywhere. There are so many meeting places. We just happen to be focused on the one right in front of us, and that's usually in our pocket. Get out there, find some time, carve out some time, or just tell yourself, I'm going to make this a priority for myself. That's what I've done. I've been fortunate. It's worked itself out. I'm 40. I'm a small business owner 3 times over at this point, and the end is still out there. I don't know I don't know what's out there for me. I continue to keep my head up and see what's available and see who I can talk to. Meeting you through Jesse Brown Storytellers.
Yeah.
There's a community there in and of itself. Go to Storytellers Night the next time it comes around. Like, keep an eye out. There's things out there. There's Trailworks. There's trail conservation work days with Carolina Thread Trail. There's whatever. It's there. There's something out there for you. And in a city like Charlotte, there's definitely something out there for you. It's a big enough place.
Well, you are living proof that you don't need a smartphone to say yes to adventure. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, I mean, you've had so much, like you said, small business owner 3 times over. I mean, building trails, like a philanthropist, like years of going to Tanzania and helping feed kids nutritious meals through the lunch project. Now you're guiding trips. Like, at some point, Hollywood is going to pick up on your story, and they're going to want to make a movie about you and your life.
Yeah,
and I want to know, when they do, who's going to be the Hollywood actor that's going to play you in your movie?
Well, it'll probably be so far down the road. Whoever I'm thinking of now is going to be the same age as me. So it's probably somebody none of us have. They're probably like somebody not even born yet by the time they actually get around to getting me on the screen. But if it was to happen right now, I would love to see either Ryan Reynolds or Chris Pratt.
Oh, nice. I love it. Okay. All right.
I like to think of myself as ruggedly handsome. So maybe somebody that's
I love it.
a little more down to earth, but yet has that adventuresome spirit.
Love it. What's your movie going to be called?
There's a book that was written years ago about this fellow Eustace Conway who lives, like, born in Gastonia, just west of here, and now lives on a little place called Turtle Island outside of Watauga County, or somewhere in Watauga County. I'm assuming he's still there. He had this book written about him called The Last American Man, and maybe mine could be The Next to Last American Man.
That's amazing.
I love it. American Man.
The Next to Last American Man, starring Ryan Reynolds, maybe Chris Pratt. I love this.
Maybe, I'm going to see. Maybe they're both. They just take turns.
I'm going to see that movie. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. This has been incredible. And for those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. Hope Jeremy's story has encouraged you to listen to the voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thanks for listening. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate the opportunity, man. It's great to have this conversation.